conversation with.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining in. I am Priyanshi, a visual artist based in India, and we are at Art and Artisans doing the series called In Conversation with. And today I am in conversation with Jung Min Park. Jung Min mainly works with installations of ceramic sculptures with sound. She studied BA Fine Art at Chelsea College of Arts, London. Her work often explores the mechanism of our existence through repetitive routines of everyday life. She has exhibited across London and Korea. She has been shortlisted for Woon Prize and Hicks Award in 2019. She has been selected for Bloomberg New Contemporaries in 2020, having a group exhibition at South London Gallery this May. And she has also participated in an artist residency at Clay Arts Museum in South Korea. And she's currently living and working in South Korea. So thank you, Jungming, for joining in. And I think let's dive into the session.
Thank you, Pri.
Yeah. Okay. So Jungming, I have seen like these gorgeous ceramics in 2019 when we were together working in at Chelsea. So tell us, how did you get into the ceramics?
Mm, Actually, I didn't really think about trying ceramics until the end of my first year at Chelsea. But because I usually did paintings, which is two-dimensional. It doesn't really have the volume, but once I keep trying to express like how I feel and like how my emotions look like, and I was keep drawing something very repetitive, and I found that I want to kind of make those drawings into 3D shapes. So I just went to ceramics workshop and just like started with the clay, and I didn't really know how to use it and I didn't know anything about it, but I just found it very interesting that the clay is actually very delicate, and once you touch it, it just has the mark of myself, like even my fingerprints, or if my hair just like passes by, it has the marks on it. So I found that clay is actually very, very delicate and very, very precise. So I found it very interesting to use as my material. And I just like started with basic techniques called coiling, which is to make a long strips of clay, and then you just build it and stuck it. And as I just tried that doing that, which is really repetitive process of making, I found it very meditating. But also I found that clay is very delicate, and it has its own rhythm, that even though I tried to like build it up as high as possible, because the clay is so wet, and once I just stuck it up like repetitively, it it just falls because it has its own weight and it's not hard enough to hold itself. So once I go to like build up to certain height, it starts to collapse. And I had to wait until it hardens a bit so that it can keep the shape. So I just like after that do coilings again, and I just repeated all the process again and again, like coiling, stacking, and waiting, and folding, and all those stuff. And I found that it's very similar to how we kind of live our life, because like us, we repeat our daily life, like which is like kind of similar, and we just live our routines. But through that routine, our personality and our lifestyles and how we eat, how we talk, like who we meet, everything just like interacts between it within our routine, and that kind of forms how what kind of person I am, because all those experiences makes what kind of person I am now. So I found it very interesting to interact with the clay while I'm making it, and which is like through repetitive process. And I found it very similar to how we live our life. So yeah, after that I started just like doing the same process again and again, making ceramic sculptures. Yeah, and yeah, that was very simple thing. The clay just taught me like how my life process is, and that's how I started doing ceramics.
That's beautiful. I mean, clay definitely has its own way to take us, and it has this very soothing property.
Mm.
I definitely relate to it. So, Jumi, like last time I've seen your sculptures were like these really intricate vase-like structures built it up, and there were like these sound plinths that you made it for the exhibition itself, and this had this sort of repetitive rhythm going on within it. So please tell us how your work has evolved. What were the ideas behind it since then?
Yeah. Actually, the structure that goes below the ceramic sculptures, I think it can be shown as, people think that it's a plinth, but actually it's more like part of my work, that I would like to call it plaster structures rather than anything else. It's part of my work. At first, I made it for like that it should act like plinth, because I don't want it, like I want my ceramic sculptures stays on the eye level of people, so that people can see like all the details of my ceramic sculptures. So I was thinking that I need plinth, but like soon as I like thought about the normal plinth, the white cube like structure, I found that it's very kind of disturbing for me to use it, because my ceramic sculptures are very organic, like organic shaped, and it has like colors, and but it has like, in terms of form, it has its own rhythm. But once the square plinth goes underneath, I found that it's kind of breaking the rhythm. So I was thinking that I want to build it, I want to make ceramic sculptures that can go underneath, so that I can stock my ceramic sculptures, so it doesn't need any plinth. It just stands by itself. But due to technical problem, it was like kind of not like very effective to use ceramics as a plinth. So I came up with wooden structure. So I made the wooden structure for my ceramic sculptures, and I found that maybe it should have some kind of similar visual effect, so that it doesn't really, it looks a bit like ceramics. And I was thinking about plaster. So I was like pouring like layers of plasters on the wooden structure, so that it can like build a layer of plaster, but with different colors. And then later on I sand it off, so that it reveals different colors of plaster layers that looks more like tree rings, and it kind of has the same contact as my ceramic pieces too, because the reason that I send my plaster structure is because I want to say that all the experiences that we are going through stacks up in our mind and our body, and later on it like even though we went through so many things in different times, it kind of like ends up with how we are now. And once you pour the different colored layers of plaster on the wooden structure and then sand it off, you can see different layers that has like, which is like underneath and above. But once you sand it kind of mixes, and then we just see it as one mess, and it kind of delete all the time period, so that it just like says, even though I went through like, when I was 3 years old I went through this, when I was 17 I went through this, like every experience is stacks up, and then now I am like this. So I kind of wanted to use that metaphor for my wooden, my plaster structure, so that because the ceramic sculptures itself is also another being of my body, and it kind of makes sense to have like something is stuck, something is accumulated for a long time, and being one mess is something that I always want to talk about. Yeah. So I thought about having plaster structure, and whenever I saw my ceramic pieces, I felt that they're my body. And and when you think about body, you when you like go close to it, you can hear people breathing, and even closer if you just put your ear on like on somebody's tummy, you can hear the sound of like stomach swelling, like woo, 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 like that. And I found that it's very primitive sound, which tells you that that person is actually alive, and those sounds are very repetitive as well. So I recorded sound of my body, and then like mixed it through program, and then installed speakers inside my ceramic sculptures, so that like the sound of my body makes different rhythms, and then it just echoes from inside, and then it just expands to the outside, and eventually it fills up the whole exhibition space, so that people can like, maybe they think that, oh, I'm inside of someone's body, and it doesn't like really like limit on the ceramic sculptures, but also expands to the whole exhibition space and the audience's body. So I'm kind of breaking the border through the sound. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, share your experience at the ceramics residency you did at Clay Arch Museum in South Korea. Uh, yeah.
Yeah. I have so many things to talk about in terms of my experience at Clay Art Museum, because actually I went there as 4 months of residency program, but due to COVID-19, everything has been cancelled. And because when I first went to the residency, they said that, oh, we're gonna support you with, like, we're gonna provide you the room for your living and room for your studio space, and an exhibition in the end of your artist in residency program, and critic matching with the critics, so that I can get some writings. The reason that the museum cancelled every program is because the government had to take all the fundings for our residency program, to they took it away from the museum because they wanted to use it for emergency support for COVID-19. There were 8 more artists with me staying. No, actually 7 more artists staying with me. And we were thinking, art is something that people think that it's not necessary. And we were talking about that, and then we decided to have our own exhibition. And we prepared all the, like we found a place to exhibit, and we prepared everything by ourselves, and finally had exhibition somewhere in Gimhae. And all the most of the staffs for working at the museum came for our exhibition, and they saw what we did, and it kind of made them to think again about like how should they act in this situation as a people who are working for museum. So we had a deal with them, and then we extended our residency program for 10 months.
Oh,
And
wow.
they promised us that they're gonna open an exhibition in the end of 2020 that has been cancelled.
Oh,
And
oh,
they provided us some financial support, like for running the kiln for free and stuff like that. And actually, I was I felt very thankful for their support and how they changed their mind, and they were doing their best to support us. So I was like, oh, I was very lucky in a way that I could stay in the museum for 10 months during very urgent COVID-19 situation, and I could work and make a lot of ceramic pieces there. Mm. And during that time, there was a master, ceramic master called Lee Gang-hyo. He was with us working for his work, but sharing our studios. And because he knows so many techniques in terms of ceramics, so he taught me how to build the the ceramic sculptures within short period of time,
oh,
and it kind of works so well that before it took me 6 hours to build like 10 centimeters, but for with his techniques I could build this much within the same 6 hours. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And I found it very interesting to learn so many techniques because I didn't have any basic knowledge about ceramics because I
yeah.
just started by myself and I didn't really like ask people or like try to look for the techniques. So it was very nice experience for me that I could meet so many good artists and so many good staffs there working for the museum, and the Korean ceramic masters and his assistants were very friendly. Yeah, and it was just like nice experience for me because I'm not used to Korean society because I lived in Vietnam since when I was young, and I didn't really stay in Korea that much time. And this was almost my proper year that I stayed in Korea. So it was very nice that I could meet so many good people here, and like now I feel like, oh, I'm enjoying Korea.
Have you like experimented and discovered new things? Obviously, you learn a lot of techniques, but something like with the glazes, like glaze recipes, or probably the clay recipes itself, like mixing up two clays and something like that, that had
Mhm.
helped you to build those structures.
Yeah, actually, the the thing that I was very surprised with was the clay in Korea is so different from what I used in UK.
Yeah.
It was very, I was very like shocked because in Korea we have so many different types of clay, which is like it's everywhere, but especially the Korean clay doesn't really have the power to hold itself. So
Hmm.
it's really easy to tear off. Tears so well, and it just collapses like that. In
Hmm.
UK, whenever I stuck the clay, it just collapses, but with the like certain amount, and then it just stops, and it holds its shape. But in Korea, it's more like it just tears off and then just falls. In UK, when you make it, they usually fire it at
Yeah.
1010 degree.
Okay.
So my works are usually very kind of pinkish beige colored when it's fired twice. So I was expecting that kind of effect, but once I came to Korea, the clay was different and the firing temperature was also different because in Korea we usually fire it at 1250, and the texture was completely different. And also like the glazes that I used in UK, it's very colorful, but the one that I used in Korea was very like dark and dull. So I was like, oh, I don't know how to manage to like different conditions. But I had to find my own clay that matches with my style, and also I had to do a lot of tests for my glazes. Yeah, I was I think that I'm not still like stable in terms of like how my sculptures come out from the kiln, because I'm not sure yet. Before I could imagine in a way, but like now I can't really expect that much.
Like you're happy with how it has evolved, considering the geographical aspects.
I think like the shapes became less, how to say, less organic, less dramatic in a
Okay.
way. So the sculptures that I made in Korea are very calm in a sense. In UK, everything was like collapsing and falling, and it was so wiggly. But like the ones in Korea, it's more like subtle. and and that's kind of like like honestly reflect how I felt in Korea, and I was just being very subtle and calm in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it again it says a lot about how you related your ideas with body, because it's
Mm.
like it's almost like body responding to different geography, and I think that that happens to a lot of us when we as a body move to different places, within different cultures. It has certain sense, it has certain kind of response. So I think probably it has come out in your work, since ceramics is exactly how we
Yes.
transform us to the clay.
Mm.
Like there's
True.
no barrier, because there's like this constant touch that we are connected by. So that's really interesting of you to share. So in ceramics we need like the physicality of us with the material, whereas
Mm.
the Bloomberg New Contemporaries were having this online workshop. So how was the experience, like a virtual experience, like?
Mm. Mm. Actually, the workshop that I online workshop that I did with um like through Bloomberg New Contemporaries this year was 2020 was very interesting. Mm, the artists who are working very actively in UK, like Alexander Decuna and Anthea Hamilton, Is it right? Yeah, I was like they were the two main artists who are running the workshop, and there were other artists who got shortlisted for Bloomberg Contemporaries like me. And we did so many interesting workshops. And one of the things that I remember is like everybody had to go out to just walk, and we had to describe like what we are seeing now. And at that time I remember that it was um 6 or 7 p.m. in UK, and for me it was 2 or 3 a.m. in Korea, because it was time difference, but everybody had to be at the online workshop at the same time. So when we walk out, like went out, everybody was walking around, and then people were talking like, oh, like, and I could hear the sound of the car and the ambulances, like, the sound of London, which I really missed. And I could hear all those like sounds, like people talking by, and like everything. And people were telling, like describing what they're seeing, and they're like, oh, I'm seeing the tree, like seeing the like, and what's the color of the tree leaves, or like someone is seeing a baby walking by, like what the baby's wearing, something like that. But when I went out, it was just pitch black. I couldn't see anything, and I was like, oh, this is so scary. And that kind of made me to concentrate more about like what I'm hearing, and like imagining what people describing of. And it was very interesting because I was walking through down there's like a garden, big garden at the museum, and I was just walking around, and all I see is just grass on the ground, and there's nobody there, but I hear people walking, talking, and the car passing, and it just felt like I'm when because I was young, I always think about like what if everything that I see and feel, and like what I'm sensing, it's not actually there, and it's all illusions and imagination of me, and I'm lying at the bed, on the bed of in the hospital, being like vegetable person who can't move, who can't really like do anything. And I felt like that. I was like, see, this is all illusions. What I feel and how I live, it doesn't exist. Something like that. It kind of made me think again about that. Yeah. And that kind of made me think more about like how we live this world through our physical body like this, because we depend on our body so much for sensing and experiencing the world and all the emotions that we have now. Yeah, everything is becomes so important, but at the same time, when we think about everything disappears, or it's nothing, or it's not existing, then why we are living for? And that kind of made me question a lot about our existence too. Yeah, because my art, it always kind of leads to proving our existence. Yeah, so it was very interesting online workshop for me. Mm.
Mm. So I think this is going to be my last question for you. So ceramics, like obviously you have this huge ways like structures plus the plaster plinths. So it must be difficult to sort of move your work internationally, right? And to even store and preserve it. So Will you like to share something or how you did it, or any tips for the viewers will be helpful?
Mm, oh, that's very true. That actually all the ceramic sculptures and plaster structures, like everything that I made in UK, are still in UK.
Okay, that's perfect.
Yeah, I felt that it's artists' responsibility to think about like how you transport your work to place and how you store it, because like for my ceramic sculptures, they're very fragile, as well as plaster structures. They're so fragile that I had to pack so much, and they're heavy, and it's just so troublesome when I think about moving them. So I was thinking, can I do something? Can I use some other material that is stronger and lighter, or even I can do video filming rather than making heavy, fragile ceramics to move it around. Yeah, but I still need ceramics to explore more, because it's the material that can express my idea more than any other medias. Yeah, but in Korea, I was so lucky enough that my dad's friend has a factory, and he offered me that I can use some part of his factory garage space, so that I bought a big container box and put it there, and I'm using it for my storage. Yeah, so I'm keeping all my ceramics there safe. Yeah, and I feel very thankful. I made a wooden box for each ceramic pieces, which was very expensive, because it was so expensive to make wooden box. So I made it by myself, but with help from technicians. Yeah, but after like making like wooden house for each ceramic pieces, I feel so much better, and also it's very easy to move it around rather than just wrap it with bubble wrap and put it in the cardboard boxes.
Yeah.
So I felt that if you think that you're gonna keep your ceramic pieces for a long time, then it's just so much easier to just make wooden crate box in first time, and then just like use it so many times to move it around safely.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that's really helpful. So thank you, Jungmin, for doing this for us. It has been an incredibly insightful session indeed. Yeah, so thank you.
No, thank you, Free.
Bye.
Bye.